You're listening to the Around the Lens podcast, the home of high-quality, roundtable, visual journalism discussion about the news, topics, and gear related to our career field. Now, here's the host of our show, David J. Murphy.
Hello and welcome to episode 239. I'm your host, David J. Murphy, a freelance visual journalist based out of South Korea. Our regular co-host joining us this week all the way from Hawaii is Ron Hamilton, a broadcast journalist with Eagle News. Hello, Ron. How are you?
Good morning, David. It's 3 a.m. here in the Aloha State.
As always.
Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
Indeed. Glad you can join us. Love your background, by the way. Is that a fridge?
Would you like a beer?
Yeah, if you could just pass that through the internet, I would really appreciate it.
There's no beer in my refrigerator, Dave.
What?
I'm a teetotaler.
Liquor? No? Oh, really? Wine? Nothing? Okay. Well, too bad.
Got water.
You can turn that into wine. Anyways, our guest this week is, I'm gonna butcher this, Camila Falcão.
She's almost there.
Almost there. Okay. Give me. I'll do an exchange program in Brazil. I'll be your student. I'll live in your house, and you can teach me Spanish or Portuguese. Is it Portuguese?
Yes.
Okay.
Portuguese.
I don't know. Hey, I'm trying to learn Korean. Okay, give me a break. Camila, so great to have you here. So Camila is a photographic artist based out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. So glad to have you, Camila. How is everything in Brazil?
Not so good.
Yeah.
Not so good at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you holding up? You doing good? You staying away from the COVID? Keeping healthy?
Yeah. I'm keeping healthy, and I'm keeping as much as possible at home.
Yeah.
But things are not good.
Oh.
We have the worst president in the world right now.
Bolsonaro, right?
Are you sure about that?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. He can be, Trump is bad, but Bolsonaro is worse because he wants to be Trump.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like a wannabe.
Well, the good news is, if Biden's elected, he'll want to be like Biden. So he'll be, right?
Well, I'm not sure.
Have they been able to do anything about the burning of the rainforest, or is that still going on?
Oh, they don't want to do anything about it.
Yeah.
They encourage that,
Oh my
actually.
God. That's the most tragic thing out of all this is just the complete environmental devastation and just complete short-sightedness in terms of that.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
Horrible.
I agree. Yeah.
Has the disease or anything, like, is it, the lockdowns and all the other things going on, has that impacted your ability to work?
Yes, totally. I have like 2 ongoing projects that are just not happening right now.
Oh my gosh.
I can't like go to people's house. I don't feel comfortable even asking them. Oh, so can I go to your house to photograph you? I just don't feel comfortable to do that yet. Maybe in a few months, but I still don't feel comfortable now.
Yeah. I think it's going to really honestly take until a widely available vaccine has been, again, widely distributed amongst most of the populace for people to feel comfortable, interacting and maybe letting their guard down a little bit. But even then, it's dubious how effective those will actually be. I've heard, things like, oh, maybe it'll be like 50% effective and stuff like that. I'm hoping that they get things figured out before we head back to America next year, but we'll see. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the show. We got a lot to talk about this evening. Our first story is about a photographer who is facing backlash for the voyeuristic images of strangers' text communications that he had taken. The photographer by the name of Jeff Mermelstein, which, by the way, Ron, did you try and get him on the show? You usually like to reach out to the folks associated with stories.
I didn't call this guy. No, I didn't. I didn't even think about it. I thought about the show topic. Me and Zach were talking online about it, but then I never followed up with the guy.
Oh, too bad.
We'll
have in need of have him on here and kind of, talk about the story and defend himself and whatnot.
Right.
But the story is from F Stoppers and was by Scott Mason. And definitely recommend y'all go check that out. It's a pretty interesting read. And I looked up his imagery and what's being published in this book. And it's interesting, it is pictures of people's text messages, but it's anonymous, as much as possible. You're not seeing who it's from or to. It's just sort of the intimate dialogues people have on text message, and probably a reminder to all of us to perhaps be more guarded with what we do and say in a public forum. But anyways, with every episode and our first topic, we always like to give our guests the opportunity to chime in on it first. So Camila, what are your thoughts about this story and kind of Jeff's sort of photographic adventure here? Do you kind of think what he's doing is okay, or do you think there's issues with it?
I don't think what he's doing is okay at all, actually. I think it's very disrespectful. And to be honest, I don't like the results of it. It's just not interesting.
Right.
Aesthetically, and it's just, the thing is just too disrespectful with people. I don't care if we cannot recognize it. The who is just like invasion. Do you guys know that work from Philippe Larca di Corsia, Heads?
I'm not familiar with that, no.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, aesthetically it's pretty great. The prints are fantastic.
Yeah,
I've seen that on a show in New York when it came out. But the thing is, it's like this. He set up a camera and a flash in the middle of Times Square, and when people got into a certain point, the camera and the flash would how do you say fire?
Pops, fire,
Pop,
yeah.
Yeah, and the flash would just like, you were like just walking on the street, and out of the blue would come like a flash in your face, and you were not able to see the camera or anything else, and then you see your picture in a gallery or in a museum, and he is making lots of money out of it without asking you permission or anything. So I've seen a video there's on YouTube, it's very easy to find, of him talking about this, and he says that he thinks that he has the right to do so, but he says, but maybe I wouldn't like to that to be done with me. So
yeah,
you guys, this is very white male. He thinks he can do whatever he wants, and that's it. It's the same with this guy. He cannot do that. Just cannot. And with Philippe Larca di Corsia, the result is aesthetically interesting. This guy, I don't even like that. So I really don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that probably in people's minds, right, and the overall ethics of it, are dubious. Legally, he absolutely can do it, but should he be doing it? Is it morally right? And, that's obviously the same type of thing that we've had arguments upon in terms of our discussions of protests and covering people who are at protests and protesters not wanting their photograph taken or wanting their faces blurred, right? And, at the end of the day, regardless of how we personally feel about, a photojournalist or a photographer out on the street taking our pictures, it's like they're legally in the right. But should they be doing it? Is it ethically right? And I would say, I mean, there's definitely some dubiousness to it, and it does give a bad taste in your mouth. It kind of reminds me of the photographer or quote artist, who took screenshots of people's Instagram photos and had a comment on it, and then he published that in a museum, and people are buying these things for thousands of dollars. The original photographer gets nothing out of it. And it's just this huge deal. And there's this, I don't know what the current status of the lawsuits are, but this guy is known for getting constantly sued for his work. Ron, what are your thoughts on this guy and sort of his text messaging photo story? Do you think there's any validity to what he's doing, or think it's just basically completely out of hand?
I think it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't do it myself. Right. I don't like sticking my camera in people's phones or whatever. But it's just, for me, it's another form of street photography. I don't have a problem with it. If he wants to do it, that's up to him. I wouldn't do it myself, but it is what you said. If people are in public, it's iffy because it's not just. In fact, when I was looking at Philip Lorca de Corsa, his photographs here, I have a less of a problem with what he's doing because this is just street portraits, more essentially street portraits. Yeah. I don't have as much of a problem with that as I do with people's text messages. It's a bit more intimate. That you're not just taking a picture of a guy on the street. Okay, I'm in the street. There's a million cameras looking at me all day long. Right. What's one more? My text messages, I kind of want to keep those private. You know, if I'm talking, me and Camila texting each other. Hey, let's go eat some vegetables tonight. And yeah, I like vegetables. And then next thing you see, we're on the internet. Look at these vegetarian dummies talking about vegetables, something like that. You know, something like that. That's like, oh, that feels more invasive, doesn't it? That's not just my face; it's my thoughts. So it's more invasive, and it's because it's that kind of thing. I wouldn't do it myself. I would consider that more egregious than taking somebody's picture. However, if he wants to do it, he's documenting daily life in a modern society where that's how we do things. It's by text. It's up to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have more of an issue with him and what he's doing if, like, you could tell who these people were and it was done in such a way where there was no anonymity to it. Because in all honesty, who's saying all this stuff isn't staged, right? Who's saying that he's not having people making
it all up? That's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. It's just your hand and a phone and some interesting conversation being happened on a text. I mean, I see it on Reddit all the time where it's like fake text back and forth conversations being posted online. That's what I'm saying. It's like the difference between this, invading someone's privacy or just creating fiction. Like there's no way to prove either way, and that sort of anonymity there. Like if you look at what he's showing, there's nothing identifiable in any of the photographs. If there were, then I would have an issue with that. Then I would see that as more of an issue, and that's why I see probably the photos of these people's faces, in this the flash that Camila brought up is probably more invasive than what the text messages are, because again you're showing people walking on the street. Now, in general street photography terms, this is textbook street photography. The only difference is they're using an artificial light source, which of course makes it different from typical street photography. And of course, street photography in general is done without the permission of the people being photographed. It's meant to capture, unguarded, unrehearsed moments. So I want to throw it back to you, Camila, and kind of dissect this, what he's doing, because I think this might be a little bit more interesting than the text message thing. You find what he's doing offensive. Is it the display of the photograph? I'm trying to think, is it one thing or is it multiple things that makes it sort of repugnant to you? Is it the display of the photographs in a museum? Is it the taking without permission? Is it the using of flash?
All of the above.
Or is it all of them? The kind of
about Philippe Larc de Corsa.
Yeah, about his work in this product. These
I think.
And how does your overall opinion of general street photography meld into this? Are you against all street photography?
Yeah. Well, I think that if you want to take, if you take someone's picture in the street, why not to care and go and ask the permission? Go and ask.
Like after the fact.
Ask them to sign authorization. I don't know. Philippe Larc de Corsa made thousands of dollars with these pictures. He was actually sued by one of them.
Oh, really?
One of yes, but he won, of course.
Yeah.
That's America. So.
Well, I mean, there is I think I agree. Like, if you can get permission from people to use their imagery, then yeah, by all means. It's kind of like what we said about protest work. If you can get buy-in from the people you're taking a picture of, yeah, great, perfect, and by all means. But then there's always that risk, though, that they won't want their picture being shown, and then you have potentially an awesome photograph that will never see the light of day. And that's probably the reason why. And also, I think it sets a precedent, right, where if you're requiring permission now from someone, then you're essentially putting the entire sort of editorial and photojournalism industry in a sort of bad place. Like if this were sort of the law, right, or the norm, if you had to get permission from the subjects in order to publish their image, that's going to completely decimate what it can be. And again, there's the overall laws of First Amendment and freedom of speech and freedom of press to be able to do their job. I think it could potentially set a bad precedent and impede with that. So it's like, how do you protect people's privacy, but also be able to protect, photojournalists, visual journalists' ability to do their job, right? And, thankfully we have that freedom to document and document you and anyone on the street, anything that can be seen in public. How is it in...
Pasha is not a photojournalist. He's an artist. His pictures were not in a newspaper. They were in a gallery and museums. It's very different. Also, this guy, what's his name again? I don't remember. The one on the...
the text guy.
Mark.
Yeah, the text
Mark
guy.
Somebody, I believe.
Yeah, they are not.
Jeff Mermelstein.
Yeah, they are not journalists. So
no, they're not.
It's different.
Yeah, they're not journalists, but again, displaying a photograph in an art museum is not commercial photography, right? It's still editorial in nature and artistic in nature. So they can still do it legally. That's why he wasn't. There was nothing. Again, you can sue him for what he did, but he was going to win because there's nothing illegal about printing works and putting it up in a wall. It's when, you try and sell that, I'm going to sell my Maybelline product or my shades with one of these photographs. Then obviously you get into the whole, you need to pay the model and the release and all that stuff. So it's still in that sort of sphere of I am doing, freedom of be able to, cover things that are in public view and demonstrating and showing that. Again, I think you could get into sort of set a bad precedent, even in this case, where, you set a bad precedent in terms of what you can and can't photograph. What are the rules like in Brazil? Are they more restrictive than in America with regard to taking pictures of people, strangers? Or is it?
No.
Okay.
Is it the same there? If you're in public, then you can be photographed. Exactly the same.
Like, could this guy do this project in Brazil?
I think so. I've never. I don't do this kind of photography. I'm not quite sure, but I think it is. I've done some fashion street photography, but I asked people to post to me. They didn't sign anything, but I asked them, "Can I take your picture?"
Okay.
And they said, "Yeah." But I think it's pretty much the same.
Right. Yeah, and looking at your work, I mean, obviously you have some very intimate portraits and, very sort of beautiful artistic works, and it looks like all of the, of course, I mean, I'm sure all of the subjects, they had buy-in and they were working with you, and, it was a collaborative arrangement, I assume, right?
Right.
What has your work been featured in galleries and whatnot?
Not yet in galleries, hopefully one day, but I've been in many collective shows and photography festivals. It was in the Aperture Foundation in New York. Can be I think it's almost like a gallery there.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry, Ron. I can hear you typing. Like, it's very loud.
I'll stop.
Thanks. I appreciate it, buddy.
But it's been showing many. Oh, actually, has been in some museums, and yeah.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, you would love to have your work featured. The work you've on your website featured and printed in museums, right? I mean, that's kind of like one of your goals.
Yeah, it's my ultimate goal. Sure.
So let me ask you this: do you think you would, if you put your work in a museum and sold the work for thousands of dollars, would you share that with the subjects that you photographed?
Maybe. Yeah. I was. I don't know if I would share forever, but I might give them some money. I was a finalist of prize. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this prize. It's called Welcome Photography Prize.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the finalists, and with one picture. And I had an agreement with the subject that if I won, we would split the money.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's very nice.
It's his face right there. You know, it's his story. I think it's just fair. I don't know if I would do that if I had like a body of work.
Mm-hmm.
If I,
Yeah.
But with one person that would be so exposed, I think it's just fair. Even though they all signed a release saying that I have all the rights for the pictures and stuff.
Sure. No, that's very nice of you. I mean, that's probably, most people wouldn't do that. So it's nice of you to consider that and be considerate and do that for sure. Yeah, getting back to the text messaging photo book. I mean, I won't purchase it. I won't buy it myself. I really don't care that much to see, if I want to see text message conversations, I can go to Reddit. They love to post those online, funny text message conversations. People usually share them themselves. It's like, actually, what I find is funny is text message stories. Have you ever seen this? It's like a whole genre of storytelling that exists only within the text message like window of a phone. And there's actually some very creative, well done stories out there. Now there's also some garbage stories, but the ones that do it right and they time it right, those are the ones that are just like you can actually get involved in into the story like they're doing. Like it's like the ones that really work on it and have like they'll have multiple conversations going with multiple people, and like one person will be texting about something else and the other person will be texting about that, and they'll share pictures, and it's just there's some very intriguing ones out there, and then there's some very lazy ones out there that just basically present the text in full speed with no pauses or breaks. It doesn't feel like someone's actually typing anything. It's just here's a bunch of text and read it. So yeah, text message stories, go check those out on the YouTube. There you'll suck up about an hour worth of your time right there. Anyways, all right. Well, any other thoughts or thoughts about this topic before we move on?
No.
All right. I like that. Definitive.
Cover your phone. Cover your phone when you text.
Yeah, get that.
Look over your shoulder. Look over your shoulder.
They do make the privacy screen protectors for phones now. So, if you want that sort of limitation of the view angles.
So the viewing angle is only what you can see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So people looking at the side, they can't see what you're typing.
Exactly. Or whatever else you're surfing on the internet, whatever pictures you might be looking at. I don't know. I don't judge you. Ron.
Around the lens. I got around the lens right there. I don't want anybody to know I'm looking around the lens.
Yeah, they might look over your shoulder. What is that around the lens you're looking at? Oh, you'd be like, oh well, you can give to their Patreon or Patreon. Which, by the way, if you'd like to support the show and get everything we do a few days early, go to patreon.com/aroundthelens and throw us a buck or two. We appreciate it.
As little as $1 a day.
Yeah, you can feed me and my family for as little as $1 a day. All right, let's talk about copyright infringement, because that's something we love to talk about on this page. Actually, this was something you brought up to me, right, Ron? This was the Volvo story. So why don't you go ahead and introduce it? I'm going to
bring up all the topics on the show, Dave.
You bring up the majority. I appreciate it. So
I just don't show up very often.
No, that's fine. You're a silent partner most of the time.
There you go.
All right, Ron. Well, tell us about this story.
What we're talking about here is the Volvo guy. The Volvo guy. What was the story with this? Oh, he took a picture of his Volvo. And
a
he
model.
said, look at this great photograph. And a model, yeah.
Photographer
and a model.
Jack Schroeder and his model Brittany Sumida. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, so he has the girl on the car, and he says, "Look at this great picture of the car. I'm gonna put it on Instagram so all my friends can see what a great photographer I am, and how beautiful the girl is, and how beautiful the car is, and look at this beautiful Instagram photo." Boom. And Volvo said, "Wow, that is a very interesting, beautiful photograph. We would like to use that for our ad campaign." So they did like our friend with the screenshots of the Instagram and put it on a big poster and put it in a museum. They put an ad out of it.
Yeah.
And the guy was upset. He says, "What? You can't do that. That's my photograph of the Volvo." And they said, "Yes, but we're Volvo." And he says, "Well, I'm going to sue you." And they said, "Well, have at it, buddy." And what happened? Did they win? Well, I can't remember the story.
I think it's still going on.
I know there was
Is
another
it?
similar case where the enterprise that I think it was BuzzFeed lost. And so this should also end in a similar losing situation for Volvo, because they're all doing this based on a misinterpretation or Instagram's terms of service and how they interpret them. And as long as the judge follows precedent of the previous Instagram case, there should be no reason why Volvo gets away with what they're doing. I should also mention that the model got into a little bit of trouble for this because she was actually associated with another car company to be their model, and so it's kind of put her in hot water. So it's not a good thing for them, and really it just bothers me that these big companies, these companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies that can obviously afford to pay a small licensing fee to a photographer for their work and their art, are just not caring. Camila, what are your thoughts on this? Have you ever had anybody use your work without your permission, or
Yeah.
And what do you do to protect your work? Is there like a copyright office in Brazil that you file your stuff with, or?
Actually, I keep my Instagram private.
Okay.
I have I think this is the only thing I can do, like about Instagram. That,
right. Well, that protects you from, I think, embedding, right? So people can't embed your work if it's private, but they can if you do accept them to be your friend on Instagram. They like, "Oh, I'm not Volvo, I'm John V. Olvo." Like, "Okay, John, come on aboard. You can see my work. Oh, beautiful. Download. But I mean, what are the rules for Brazil in terms of copyright, and how do you protect your work in Brazil?
I don't have like any sort of protection.
Okay.
But
I mean, let's say like some company wanted to took one of your pictures without permission and used it for an ad campaign in Brazil. I mean, what would you do at that point? Anything?
I would sue. Yeah,
Okay.
I would sue, of course, and I think I would win.
Yeah. So there are copy protections. I mean, but you don't know if it's like life of the author plus X amount of years, or do you know?
Oh, well, I'm if what I know is that if I'm the author of the picture,
right,
they cannot use it without my authorization.
Yeah.
They cannot. And if they do, I can sue them and I will win.
Right.
For
Absolutely.
sure. So the Volvo is just like, this is capitalism, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like savage capitalism, and they are. I mean, that's exactly what you said. They could pay like a fee that for them is like nothing.
Yeah.
But they prefer being jerks and just stealing a photographer's picture and using the and use the model's image, without her permission. It's the same thing. They think they can do it all.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, it's interesting how, again, people think that just because they're using this service, and it even goes to show like the larger idea of ignorance from the general public, where they think, oh, if it's on the internet, it must be free. What is this copyright you speak of, and thankfully I've never had any of my work stolen that I'm aware of, probably because I'm not as well renowned as other people. But, I've heard of other people who have had their work stolen, and sometimes it's a matter of, if they're a company, you can send them an invoice for your use of your imagery, or you can take them to court, like Zach has done with his imagery from Charleston, and his lawyer, or you can do a many number of things. But yeah, again, copywriting your stuff with your local copyright office if it's in your country, and then making sure to have you ever thought about watermarking your imagery?
No, I haven't.
Okay. You're not too worried about it then?
Well, I'm worried, but not at that point, of doing that. I've never thought about it. Some people used my pictures like to share on their Instagram pages, and they credit me and everything. Some asked before, and I agreed, but some just don't ask. They just share, and they put my credit, and they think that they are doing me a favor.
That's right, because that's what pays the electric bills, right? Credit.
Exactly. And
that's why I do. I go to my landlord, like, look, see, I was in this magazine. Can that covers us for the month, right? Okay, great.
Exactly. Go to the supermarket and show the phone to the girl, and she would just get my groceries for free.
There you go. Oh, you're Camila? Oh, well.
Wow.
Oh.
Just take it.
Yeah, please. Don't even worry about it. Here, you want this? Here, take this wine or whatever. On me.
But what I really think is the problem, not the only problem, but a huge problem is Instagram rules. They are really messed up.
Well, I believe, Instagram, I believe, has clarified their terms of service or whatnot. They probably should have been more clear and not given companies that think, for somehow they have the carte blanche, that somehow they're a sub-licensee of Instagram. I think that's rampant misinformation. A lot of the things too is a lot of these companies, right, Volvo and others, they have legal teams. They have people they can ask and throw this stuff at, and either the legal team said, oh, yeah, you're good. We read the terms of service, and these people published on Instagram that they have agreed to a subs license agreement with Instagram. So you're good. Go for it. And, again, they have the money to defend themselves if they are ever sued. So they could care less. I mean, it's going to cost them chump change. Again, but for the price they're going to, fight this in court, they could have just paid the photographer,
Exactly. But sometimes they want this kind of attention as well,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, they're getting, obviously, the article on F-stoppers here, but I don't know. Is that
I don't know either. It's hard to understand. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But, it's like our friend who couldn't be here tonight, Travis Keys, says with his Instagram page, it's like the work he's placing on there is obviously not at full resolution because Instagram automatically crunches it down. And it's not necessarily the work that is going to be, that's going to be selling, right? It's mostly stuff that, he likes of him and is sort of artistic and experimental stuff. And I think that's just how you have to look at it,
That's why I have so much respect for that guy that you hate, the guy that takes the screenshots and makes gallery photos out of them. It's like, how does he make such huge prints from these tiny little pictures? He deserves something for that.
Yeah, well, he doesn't deserve anything, but he does get thousands and thousands of dollars for them. So he's good. He's good.
It's a good business model.
Yeah.
We're missing out, Dave.
I know, right? You don't have to worry about anybody stealing your work from Eagle News, right? Or does Eagle News ever have to worry about people taking their footage and reusing it without permission?
In the Philippines, life is completely different. I talked about it before on the show that you watch the news in the Philippines sometimes, and there'll be some video footage, and then in the bottom right corner, there's a little blurry thing. What's that blurry thing over there? Is that a logo from another company that's been blurred out?
Oh my gosh.
So, I don't think they have the same. I think they have the same rules. I just don't think they follow the same rules over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are the copyright rules more lax in the Philippines?
I think the Philippines is based on America a lot. A lot of the laws are based on American laws.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine copyright is one of them. But the laws are the laws.
Yeah.
But then there's the way they're enforced,
Yeah.
right? So I think they're more lax in enforcement over there about certain things.
Indeed. I mean, who's really watching it if you're not in the Philippines, right?
Just me.
And me when you send me the clips. Have you done any more? What is it?
I haven't.
Foreign language.
Speaking? I haven't done anything in foreign languages.
Oh my gosh, I want to see more clips.
Only
Ron.
English.
Okay.
I know it's really funny to watch me speak other languages. I'm not good at any language I'm not too good at English.
Yeah. How's your Portuguese?
But other languages I really massacre. My Portuguese, fogo de chao.
Yeah. Camila, do you speak any other languages besides obviously English and Portuguese?
A little Spanish.
Oh, cool.
¿Verdad?
¿Cómo está?
¿Cómo está?
Yeah.
Hola.
¿Cómo está?
No, ¿cómo estás?
I've been trying to learn Spanish for like the last 10 years. It ain't happening. Just like I tried to learn Korean for like a year. It ain't happening. I am.
Well, for me, Korean it's really, really difficult. I don't think I would ever learn that. But Spanish, it's sort of easy for me.
Yeah.
Sí, es mucho en común con portugués.
Sí, mucho.
Well, what's
when
funny,
I'm reading on the internet, I can read the Portuguese because I can figure it out.
Yeah.
If I'm reading the Portuguese, because it's more or less very similar to Spanish, so I can figure things out.
Yeah. I used to I say that I speak like Portuñol, like a mix of the two languages.
Right.
But people understand me, and that's great.
Hey, that's all you need.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny is of the Asian languages, right? They all look complicated because, of course, they're using, the characters that aren't Roman, characters. But Korean is actually one of the easier Asian languages to learn. Their alphabet is very simple and easy to understand. And once you understand the basics of it, you can pretty much not only pronounce anything you're seeing, but also generally understand what it is. What's funny is you can actually pronounce Korean when you look at it without having any idea what you're reading, and that's kind of a funny aspect of the language. And maybe I'll give it another shot here. I'm here for another 11 months, so who knows? All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on.
I can teach you to read Korean in 15 minutes.
Perfect. After the show,
it'll be in the
Ron.
show notes.
After the
it'll
show.
be in the show notes, folks.
You and me, Ron. After the show, I have a private class. All right, let's go ahead and jump to our last topic this evening. We're talking gear. Petapixel posted a story about the confirmed Panasonic full-frame S5, which is set to be unveiled on September 2nd. So this was rumored that Panasonic was working on a sort of budget-friendly mirrorless, full-frame mirrorless body. Of course, they recently joined the mirrorless ranks with their S1, S1R, and S1H, all three of which I have and use on a regular basis, all three of which are beautiful cameras that are very powerful and capable in terms of what they do, but they are rather pricey, with the S1 starting at $2,000, the S1R going to $3,700, and the S1H going to $4,000. So, Panasonic probably looked at their portfolio and thought, how do we get more people into the full frame mirrorless market? And of course, buying our more expensive mirrorless lenses. And now they're coming out with the S5. And so this story goes into some of the specs, which I'll repeat here, but does not list a price. I'm going to guess, just based on what I'm reading here, that's probably going to be around the $1,300 to $1,600 range. But, we'll see. We'll see. I know Nikon just recently released the Z5. Everybody's using 5, by the way. Get off of that, all right? That's Canon's thing. Which, by the way, Canon R5 is on its way. It'll be here next week, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to actually getting my hands on it. Hopefully I don't burn my hands, but, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it to use it. And I'll give you all the feedback on the show and also probably some other videos I work on. Anyways, quickly rundown of the specs here. 24 megapixel sensor, 2.36 million EVF, 7 frames per second shooting. Of course, the 5-axis in-body image stabilization, vari-angle touchscreen, would expect nothing less. 4K 60 video and 4K 30. dual SD card slots as per the usual. So yeah, a lot of great capabilities here, a lot of cool stuff coming with this camera. I guess we'll start with you, Ron. You know, any thoughts on this as a camera? Are you intrigued by what Panasonic is doing here?
I always like new technology, Dave. This is, steps forward, moving forward, moves, rising tide lifts all boats, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change systems again. I just got rid of my
You're a Fuji man now.
Canon DSLRs. Yeah, I'm a Fuji man now. I got rid of my Canon DSLRs. Last time I was in the Philippines, I met with some former students.
Yeah.
I gave them all my stuff.
Right.
I said, guys, go forth and prosper.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I moved to Fuji because of another podcast guest that came on and convinced me. Anyway, that story's been told.
Indeed.
So I'm a Fuji man now, so I will not change systems again so quickly.
Yeah.
But it is good technology. I look forward to seeing what happens. And I wish you well with your new purchase, because I suspect that being the tried and true believer that you are, I think you're going to ditch your Canon as soon as this thing's available.
No. I'm fully back on the Canon bandwagon. This camera is nice, and all of the S1 and S series cameras from Panasonic are beautiful machines. But in terms of raw power, and raw capability, the Canon just has what I want. And so, I think deep in my heart, I'm a Canon boy. I'm a Canon fanboy. I love my 5D Mark II. I love the Panasonic series, as well. And I think perhaps I will switch back to them in the future someday. But for right now, Canon, they won me back. I came.
Was it the f11 lenses? That's what got you? The f11 lenses?
Oh, I am intrigued by them. I mean, that 800 millimeter is, captivating, and probably something I might add to my collection in the future. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely neat to see what they're doing in terms of the RF lens mount, because that's, I think, where you're getting the most out of the new full frame mirrorless systems is the RF lens mount, the shorter flange distance, and what camera manufacturers can do with that is really intriguing. So I commend Panasonic for going in this direction. I think it kind of spells the end for Micro Four Thirds, in all honesty. I mean, perhaps we'll see a GH6. I sure hope that we do, but with this camera, I think Panasonic is saying, listen, guys, we'll support Micro Four Thirds maybe in our cheap, vlogger cameras that they just came out with one earlier this year. But I mean, I think they're saying, like, hey, get on over to full frame, quit tooling around in mirrorless. That was sort of a stopgap measure until we could get full frame up and running.
Maybe.
I mean, because
it could happen.
Well, I was saying your Fuji film cameras are APS-C crop, right?
APS-C, yeah, we're cropped. Yeah, 1.5 crop on the Fuji there, like Nikon's 1.5. It's not a big deal for me, honestly. I think as photojournalists, we want cameras that have low light capabilities, and you get better low light with full frame than you do with crop sensors.
Yeah.
But technology, the higher ISOs are performing better.
Yeah. But I mean, you said you obviously moved to your new system, but you're not thinking about going and changing just because of full frame. Like, full frame isn't enough to pull you over and away from Fuji, right? Like, there would have to be something.
Not now. I'm happy with what I got. I'm happy with the system that I've got going right now. It seems to be working fine.
Yeah.
I haven't come across any limitations that I said, oh golly, if I had a full frame, I could have done a better job. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
It could happen someday, but I doubt it. Cameras are pretty good these days. That's why I think the same thing with the Micro Four Thirds. Yeah, they're not great in low light. They're pretty good. Like you said, the high ISOs are better.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to get rid of the Micro Four Thirds line, but you're more tuned in with that product than I am.
Yeah, I don't see them getting rid of it anytime soon. I think there's just too much glass out there to completely abandon.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I still think there'll be another GH in the series. I just can't imagine. There's so much love for that camera. I mean, I still have it. I still use it. I'll still continue to use it after I get the Canon R5, but I don't know. I don't know. Again, I will be moving myself professionally towards full-frame mirrorless going forward with the R5 and its successors, so I don't see myself devoting, I just sold almost every single one of my mirrorless Micro Four Thirds lenses on eBay, and thankfully that helped pay for the majority of my new camera body, just the body. Unfortunately, I do have one lens, so I could sell a bit more and get more for the rest of my stuff and help cover the rest of the cost. But anyways, Camila, what are you shooting with?
I have a Nikon G 810.
D800. Yeah. Okay, D810. That's a great camera.
Yeah.
How
it is. I love it.
Yeah.
I've been using Nikon ever. I have a Hasselblad that I haven't used it for many years because I just can't afford it. I wish I could. That would be my first choice.
Yeah.
But I've been using Nikon for like 15 years. I really love it.
Yeah, no, they're a great brand. They're what I started with when I was learning film, and I have a lot of affection for that brand. I don't currently use any of their equipment, nor do I see myself ever going back to them. But great brand, very, very, very good cameras. I think for you as a stills only photographer, right? Like you don't shoot any video, do you?
No.
Okay, I think for you stills only, the mirrorless sort of revolution doesn't have the kind of weight and sort of urgency, perhaps, to switch over. But being a Nikon user, have you thought about or looked at the Nikon Z6, Z7, Z5 series of cameras? Have they intrigue you at all?
Yeah, they do actually. I might switch when I got my next body.
Okay.
But because the thing is, Nikon and in Canon, they what's the word? They had this. Sorry, the word is not coming. But
say it in Portuguese. No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever. They are going for this mirrorless now. Before they kind of had the old way, and they sort of adapted to the digital. And I think the mirrorless would be even better might be even better than this system they have now, because it's adapted to digital.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I've never used a mirrorless camera. When I got my this body, I was thinking about switching for a Fuji.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But the guy from B&H convinced me to not.
Those salesmen are so sneaky.
I mean, they're very well educated, and they want to give you the best product. And I will say, I'll give this to B&H. You go in there saying you want X, Y, and Z, and they'll be like, "Are you sure you need that? We got a used department over here, or maybe you want the less expensive glass. What are you really trying to get out of your camera gear?" So they aren't always trying to push, the high dollar value stuff, and sending up somebody off with the wrong kind of equipment. So they convinced you to stick with Nikon, and okay,
they did. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I would say with regard to mirrorless, that's where you're seeing a lot of the technological innovations with regard to lenses. Of course, Nikon has the 0.95 Noct lens, so if you're looking for that super low aperture stuff, you can get it from there. And then, of course, Canon has the f2 24 to 70 millimeter lens. It's only $3,000, but again, it's super wide open. Lenses like that. So that's where you're seeing a lot of the capability coming from, is that ability to get sort of the really low aperture numbers and whatnot, and just really cool like little innovations. Like I know on the Canon cameras they have like a little control ring that gives you some additional functionality and stuff like that. But I think beyond that, though, if I were you, Camila, and you were looking to jump to mirrorless, being that you are a Nikon user, if I were you, I'd probably try out whatever the Z6 or Z7, whichever camera you think is more fit your needs. I think the 7 is the higher megapixel one. So I love megapixels. If I can get more of them, I'll take them. And that's why I'm loving the Canon R5, because you get 45 megapixels. But, I would consider, going to one of those bodies and then just using adapter for a lens. I think you're going to get about
Yeah.
90% of the way there, and you can kind of get comfortable with the mirrorless format. And if you kind of like what you're
Work your
seeing
way
and
into
using
it.
it, you switch.
Yeah.
You switch over fully. I don't know if there's a robust camera rental business or market in Sao Paulo. I mean, it is a major metropolitan area, so there could be, but that might be something you want to look at, if that's a feasibility. But if not,
I don't think it's nothing like in New York
Right.
where you can rent whatever you want, and
Yeah.
you don't even need to own a camera if you
Right.
Yeah.
New York.
Mm-hmm.
But here you can rent, but not everything.
Right.
It's not like we have no.
I'll be honest, when I moved back to the States, like I'm seriously considering just not even getting other lenses. Like I have the body and I've got the 24 to 105 f4 for my Canon, and I may just have that, because that's a pretty robust, versatile lens I got for relatively cheap.
Right.
If I really need other lenses, I'll just go to lensrentals.com and I'll ship me a couple lenses I need, and I'll charge that to the customer, whoever's hiring me. I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a line item expense in my overall cost of doing business. So,
Exactly.
For a while,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I
After
was
you.
just saying, for a while, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
After you.
After you.
For a while, I was working only with 24 to 105 and 100 to 400.
Yeah.
And anything else I would rent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I could see myself getting the 800 just because it's such a neat novelty lens, and I could definitely see myself using that, going to the park, going to the zoo, especially when I want to photograph people's screens, when they're doing text messaging. That would come in very handy for that, for my
Very
new
handy.
book. Yeah, totally. Or if I want to just...
Better. That's why you want mirrorless, because you can do electronic shutter.
Oh, yeah.
That way they
100%.
can't even hear you when
There you
when
go.
you're getting over their shoulder. They won't even hear a word. Yeah, they won't hear click, click. No, it's
Yeah.
quiet.
That is the one thing, if you're a still shooter, to consider with mirrorless is that ability to silent shoot, because that is just the holy grail in terms of, I think, trying to be a fly on the wall and do photojournalism, and that's you get your dividends with that. So if you're considering going mirrorless as a photographer, that's probably the biggest selling point I can think of, comparing it to
I found out the hard
DSLR.
way though. There's a problem with electronic shutters. I didn't know. I using mirrors and whatnot as I have most of my life. But the electronic shutter, you can't do motion.
No, not really. Nothing fast.
Yeah, you can't do fast motion. You can't move your camera, and you can't get somebody moving. It's going to warp the image with an electronic shutter. And you can research why that is. It doesn't matter. The point is, you have to have the click if you want to capture motion. You have to do the mechanical shutter.
Yeah, it's just basically the rolling shutter. But I will say I have used electronic shutter on military formations, the silent drill team. It does make some interesting effects, like the way it curves the rifle as they're spinning it. I thought that's pretty neat, actually. And I actually kept those in my take. I was like, oh, that's a neat little effect, something different, something people look at, make like, oh, that's weird. That's sets you apart.
It's Photoshop.
Yeah, I know, right? But definitely check it out. I think regardless of your eye desires to stick with mirrored DSLRs, I think mirrorless are the way of the future. No matter what we like. So I think you're going to be upgrading to a mirrorless in the future, Camila, whether you want to or not.
I think so.
Yeah, it's just that's where the market's going. It'll be like film cameras to DSLR, now DSLR to mirrorless. So, anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to get us to the end of this week's show. Camila, where can people find out more about you and your work?
You can find me on Instagram. It's at Cami Falcão. Or you can go to my website, which is Cami Falcão as well.
And can you spell that for people who aren't willing to go look at our show notes?
It's CAMIFALCAO.
All right, great. That's your Instagram. Perfect. All right, go to her Instagram and ask to be a member, I guess, or subscriber, and maybe she'll let you in. It's a very exclusive club.
Maybe. Yeah.
As long as you don't steal her stuff and put it in an ad campaign, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I keep my Instagram private before this whole thing because I shoot a lot of transgender people,
Right.
and transphobic people almost took my account down. So
Oh wow, jeez.
I try to keep them away from me.
Yeah.
Now.
Is Brazil
I can imagine.
Is Brazil generally accepting of people, they're trans and homosexual and stuff, or is there still sort of that stigma there that exists within the culture?
Brazil, unfortunately, Brazil is the country that kills the most transgender people in the world.
Oh, geez, that's horrible.
Yeah, and it's also the country that search for most pornography with these people.
Oh my God. That's like one of those like Pornhub, they do those breakdowns of what people are searching for where and what country, and it's always the most like restrictive countries, that have the most just messed up fetishes or whatever, again, from people's outside perspective. Like, the Midwest Bible Belt of the United States are the ones looking up, the kinky stuff online. But that's interesting.
Right.
It's like the private sort of what people feel in their hearts or whatever they want to do in their private lives, and then the public like, no, we hate that and we're gonna, it's like, it's just so crazy to see that kind of dichotomy, and I'm sorry that it exists there, but thanks for what you're doing in terms of thanks for what you're doing in terms of highlighting it, and I saw your work and some beautiful work there. So very, very brave of your subjects to be willing to be photographed, especially considering the nature of the sort of area they're in. So. But awesome body of work. Everybody go check out her stuff. Awesome stuff. You'll find the link in the show notes. Ron, anything we need to hear about from you before we sign off?
Continue watching Around the Lens. We appreciate it.
That's right. When are we going to see some hot takes, Ron? I really want to see some hot takes.
Yeah, I know. I want to do hot takes. I imagine this should be in the works.
I'm sure you could do a hot take on, what is that? That little device you got on Kickstarter couple of years ago.
Oh, they make a new one now.
Is it out already?
It's called Arsenal. No, I saw the ad on Instagram.
Yeah.
Arsenal 2.0, and my comment was "fool me once." ...
That's right.
I might have been the first commenter on that post. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, you could do a hot take on the Arsenal 2 and be like, "What is this garbage? Do not buy this. I am a living representation."
Have you tried it yet, Dave? Did you try it?
That's on my list of things to do, Ron.
Cable.
I just gotta get that cable.
I know.
That terminal, the terminal quest for that cable. I'll get it one of these days, Ron. Don't worry. All right. Well, again, as Ron mentioned, check out everything we do at Around the Lens at aroundthelens.com. You can find, of course, our show notes for this week's episode and links to everything we talked about. In addition, you'll find links to all of our social media. So if you'd like to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on the Instagrams or the Twitters, like what we're doing here, that would be much appreciated. At the minimum, please find us on these platforms, like us, subscribe, if possible, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about what we're talking about here. Do you agree, disagree? Are we completely off base, or whatever? Just kind of leave a comment. Really appreciate that. I will absolutely engage with you on those platforms. It's a complete joy to me to be able to engage with and get feedback from our listeners and our subscribers. So by all means, and again, if you have the financial means and ability to do so and would like to get our stuff early, please go to patreon.com/aroundthelens and throw us a bone. It's truly appreciated. I really want to feed my children this week, and your donations go a long way towards that. Anyways, and we want to feed Ron's foreign exchange students, if I can mention that. Yeah, so you know.
Go ahead, Dave. You hold very little back. Go ahead.
Indeed. All right, then. Well, I think that's it for episode 239 of Around the Lens. Again, thank you, Camila, so much for being on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here.
All right, great to have you. For Ron Hamilton, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 239, and we are out.
Thanks for listening to Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show. To continue the conversation, head on over to one of our social media outlets such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. To support the show financially, consider donating to us via Patreon. For show notes from this week's episode and links to everything else we talked about, Just go to our website, aroundthelens.com. Finally, if you or someone you know might be a good guest for the show, get in touch with us via email at info@aroundthelens.com.